Hi everyone, welcome to our cooking class. Today's topic is plant-based and planet-friendly. This class was meant to be in honor of Earth Month in April, but we had to postpone it unfortunately. But anyway, we can still talk about the benefits of eating plants and how it helps the planet. So again, eating plants is good for you and the planet. Animal foods generally take more resources to produce, like water, energy, processing, and etc. And the thing is, you don't have to go completely vegan or completely plant-based to make a difference, but just eating more plants and less animal products collectively can make a big difference. Okay, so I have a lot that I want to talk about today, but we are making two recipes, and so I'm going to try to kind of multitask and do the introduction as we start cooking. And I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Kim Guess. I'm a dietitian with Be Well at Work Wellness Program at University Health Services. Okay, so we're going to be making two recipes today. One of them is a jackfruit curry. I've been getting a lot of requests for jackfruit recipes, so I'm going to show you how to make that. And then we're also going to do some veggie burgers. So we're going to start with the curry. So the recipe is here. You'll see it on both views. What we're going to do is cut up some onion, garlic, and ginger, and then we're going to use canned jackfruit. And oops, let me grab that. And I'm going to talk to you about what I did with this ahead of time in case you want to try that. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is cut up some onion because we're going to saute this. So this recipe is from a website called Vegan Freecha. And it involves a lot of spices, but I'm going to show you how you can do things a little bit differently if you don't have all these whole spices. So we're just going to add the spices ground, and we're going to add them a step later so that they don't burn in the pan. So first of all, we're going to cut up some onions. So it says to use one small onion. My onions maybe more like medium, so I'm just going to use half of it. And I'm just going to dice it up. Put that aside. And then we're going to use a bunch of garlic. I think it's five cloves of garlic. And then 1 inch of ginger. So this recipe is completely plant-based, and instead of using meat, we're using jackfruit. And jackfruit is kind of a trendy new meat replacement, but it's actually nothing new. It's been around for a long time. And it grows naturally in tropical areas of Southeast Asia and Brazil, and also I believe in Africa. So in those places, it grows on a tree. It's actually the largest tree fruit in the world. It can grow up to 100 pounds, believe it or not. And the trees grow in conditions, it doesn't really need favorable conditions. It can grow pretty easily, and it yields a lot of jackfruit. So it's not a very resource intensive plant to grow. And it actually can grow in the US in Florida, but it does need kind of a tropical climate, which, a lot of the country does not have. A couple more cloves of garlic. So yeah, jackfruit's been actually used for hundreds of years. So instead of showing you a new kind of more trendy recipe, like people use it as a pulled pork replacement, or they use it to make like vegan carnitas, or you can put it in soups and stews. that's all fine, but I wanted to show something that was a little bit more traditional. So that's why we're doing this curry today. And if you can't find jackfruit or you don't like it, you know, you could always just use chickpeas or something else instead. Or you could add chickpeas to this recipe if you want. Okay, so I'm just gonna mince up the garlic. So yeah, jackfruit, you know, unfortunately, you're probably not going to find it at the farmers markets around here, but you can buy it fresh. It's a lot of work to prepare from fresh. It's pretty tedious. So you can also buy it in cans. I've seen it at Berkeley Bowl and Trader Joe's. And at Trader Joe's, I think it's about $2 a can. So that can also help with the rising food costs, especially with meat. Meat has become really expensive. So using plant-based replacements can also save you some money in addition to all the health and planetary benefits. So let's talk a little bit about the jackfruit real quick while I'm the ginger. So here's a can of jackfruit that I got at Berkeley Bowl. You can see it says young green jackfruit. So whether it's fresh or canned, the young green jackfruit is typically used more like a vegetable in savory dishes. And then when it's ripe, it's sweeter and it's more like a tropical fruit. I've heard it tastes kind of like pineapple and banana, so very, you know, tropical. So you don't want to use the sweet kind in this recipe. You want to use the young, unripe jackfruit, which is the kind they have at Trader Joe's if you want to give that a try. Okay, so it says to use 1 inch of ginger. So I just kind of peel off the peel with a spoon, and then I'm just going to dice it up. Okay, so what else? So jackfruit in a can, when it's the young, unripe jackfruit, it's packed in a brine. And the brine has a flavor that not everybody likes. So I'm going to give you some tips about using jackfruit that you can use either for this recipe or if you do want to try it to make, you know, pulled pork replacement or anything else with jackfruit. So I've looked at a lot of recipes online and I've seen comments where people tried using the jackfruit straight from the can and they made the recipe and they just couldn't even eat it. So you may not be bothered by it, especially if you pair it with something really flavorful like a curry. But you might want to try, you know, this one kind of extra step to get rid of some of that briny flavor. Okay, and I'm going to tell you about that in a second, but let's go ahead and start cooking just so we make sure we get through everything today. All right, so I took this recipe as is from the website where I got it, but I'm going to make a few, I'm going to show you how to adapt a little bit, and I also mentioned how to adapt in the comments. So what I'm going to do, since I'm not using the whole spice seeds, I'm going to actually start by sauteing the onion, garlic, and ginger in a little oil. And then since the spices are ground, they would burn quickly if I just threw them in without other things. So I'm going to add those actually in step 2. So first step I'm going to do is heat up a skillet with a teaspoon of oil, and then I'll add all these things here. Okay, so, you know, this ingredient list might look a little long and intimidating, but a lot of it's really just the spices. And if you don't happen to have them, you can replace some of the spices with garam masala. This blend that I have is cumin, black pepper, cinnamon, cloves, coriander, and cardamom. So I'm going to actually use this to replace the cumin, coriander, and cardamom, and I'm just going to use 2 teaspoons of this. So that makes it a little bit easier. So once our oil is hot, we're going to add all this. We're also going to add a couple of dried red chilies. So I don't find that this makes it particularly spicy. It really depends on what types of chilies you use. There's so many different types. But if you want it to be really mild, I think you could probably just leave the chilies out or find a really mild chili. Okay, let's go ahead and add these to the pan. So a tip that I like to use is to use a wet rag under your cutting board to keep it from sliding around. These rags are actually really cool. I think they're made of cellulose, so they're compostable. They're sometimes called Swedish dishcloths, and you can use them over and over again, sort of as a paper towel replacement. You can just throw them in the washing machine. And then if they eventually get worn out, then you just throw them in the compost. So another planet-friendly find. Okay, I'm going to stir up the vegetables. Okay, so in just a second, we're going to add the 2 bay leaves and the chilies. And then I'm going to cook that until the onion is translucent, and then I'm going to go ahead and add the dried spices. So I'm going to be adding the garam masala, but since that doesn't include the turmeric, I'm going to be adding that separately, which is right here. Okay. Let me see if there's anything else we need to get ready. Okay, so for the jackfruit, a way to get rid of the briny flavor is to first rinse it really well. I would say even if you're not going to take any extra steps, when you take it out of the can, rinse it really well, and maybe even squeeze out some of the liquid. And then let's go ahead and open this can so I can show you what it looks like out of the can. So it's going to come in kind of big chunks, and there's pieces of core in it, which, like other fruit, is kind of dense. So hopefully you can see this on the overhead camera. There we go. Okay, so this part is the core. It kind of looks like a really pale pineapple. And then this is kind of the meaty part. So what you want to do is cut off the core. And then because it's more dense, it'll cook down to be soft, but just cut it into smaller pieces. And that will help it cook down a little bit better. And you don't have to worry too much about the shape, but just kind of small pieces like that. And then that will make it a better texture. Okay, so gotta stir our onion and everything every once in a while. And okay, let's see. Let's go ahead and add the chilies and the bay leaves. Okay, so back to the jackfruit. So this is what it looks like. So you'd want to rinse that really well. What you can do to get rid of some of that briny flavor is to cook it out. So what I did ahead of time was I rinsed off the jackfruit, and then I put it in a pot with some water and I boiled it for 10 minutes. And then after that, I poured off the water, I put it into a colander, and I squeezed out the extra liquid. So I've seen on one website, they said to do that for an hour and then drain it and then do it for another hour, which seemed like a lot. I feel like just doing, 10 minutes of boiling kind of helps soften it, and also helped with the flavor. So this one on the left has been boiled and the one on the right hasn't. So you can kind of see how the one on the left is just falling apart, and then the one on the right is still pretty firm because it hasn't been cooked yet. It has been canned. And then I actually just froze it. So since it's an extra step, you can do it ahead of time and maybe do a few cans worth and then just freeze it. And then I just thawed it in the fridge overnight and now it's ready to go. So that's how you can save a little time. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and add our spices, and we're just gonna toast them a little bit. So again, we're gonna do 2 teaspoons of the garam masala, and then half a teaspoon of turmeric, and then we're gonna add tomato. So I'm gonna use this strained tomato. It's like a tomato puree. Or you can actually puree fresh tomatoes. If you look at the picture on the recipe sheet, I used fresh pureed tomatoes, and it does come out a different texture. When I used the jarred tomato and a little coconut milk, it made a really smooth, creamy curry. So depending on what kind of texture you're going for, you can change up your ingredients. Okay, half a teaspoon of turmeric. So yeah, the picture on your recipe sheet doesn't have coconut milk in it. The recipe doesn't call for it, but you can add it if you want it to be a little bit more rich and creamy. Okay, so we're gonna add 1.5 cups of tomato puree. And then we're going to go ahead and add the jackfruit. So this is equivalent to 1 can of jackfruit that I prepared ahead of time. You don't really need to break up the big chunks because they'll kind of naturally fall apart as they're cooking. I also want to point out these, I don't know if you can really tell, but these are the seeds, which are totally fine to eat when they're cooked. They have a little bit more of the protein. So just throw it all in there. Okay, and then let's see, we just need to add some salt. So it says 1/2 to 3/4 teaspoon of salt. And you can always do that to taste. Okay, so we're gonna cover it and let it cook for 15 minutes so we can get started on the burgers. Okay, so just make sure you keep the heat low when you cover it and let it simmer for 15 minutes. Okay, let me see. There are a few other things I wanted to say about jackfruit, but I'm doing a few different things, so I'm just going to kind of read them off my list here. So jackfruit itself it's a fruit, so it's a good source of fiber and has various vitamins and minerals. It actually has more protein than most fruits, not a ton, but it has 3 grams per cup. And this, like I said, the seeds have a little bit more of the protein. So a common question I get about eating plant-based is, where do you get the protein? Do you get enough protein? And the truth is, in the United States, most people eat more than enough protein, maybe close to double what they really need. So it's really not hard to get enough, even on a completely plant-based diet. But you might, be a little more careful how you plan your meals. just to make sure that they're filling and do meet all your nutrient needs. But honestly, plant-based foods tend to be very nutrient dense, which is a good thing. So, you tend to get more fiber, which most people don't get nearly enough fiber, all kinds of vitamins and minerals and phytochemicals, antioxidants in their natural form, rather than needing supplements to get those nutrients. So lots of nutritional benefits of eating more plants. Even if you're not exclusively eating plants, just eating more, it's definitely a good thing. I talked about it more in a class that we did earlier this semester. It was called Plant-Based Tips and Tricks. So if you want to learn more specifically about health and getting started and incorporating more plants, then you can check out that recording and those recipes. So let's see, what else is there? Maybe that was all I wanted to say about that. So the next recipe we're going to do is a veggie burger. So I found this recipe, a dietitian named Nicole Osinga had this on her website, and they're veggie burgers that are meant to be sort of like a Beyond Burger, which I know are really popular, but they can be a little pricey. So these ones you can just make with whole ingredients that you can buy at the store, and they're very nutritious and taste good. So this is one of a million different, veggie burger recipes. So I'm also going to just talk about kind of general tips for making veggie burgers in general. Okay. So the main ingredients we're going to use here are mushrooms and tempeh. So the tempeh will give it kind of a nice hearty texture. The mushrooms will give it kind of a meaty flavor. Then we're going to use oats, which will help bind it and also add some nutritional value. And we'll be adding a lot of different things to flavor it and make the flavor more complex. And we're even going to add a little bit of beets because that will kind of give it more of a meaty, color. So if you're not worried about that, or you really don't like beets, then you can just leave it out or maybe replace it with a little bit of another vegetable. Okay, just want to check on that. So that's got another 11 minutes to go. So what I did here is I cooked this brown rice a couple weeks ago, and I portioned out 1 cup and I froze it. So you can always make big batches of grains or beans and then just freeze them. And that will help make sure that you're not wasting food, and it makes it easier and can save you some time. So I have 1 cup of brown rice, and I kind of adapted this recipe a little bit so we don't actually have to do any chopping, because you need the food processor anyway. So I thought, why not just, chop everything in there as well. So I think the food processor is a really useful tool, especially if you're trying to eat more plants, because then you can make all kinds of sauces and, things like burgers, or you can make, instead of meatloaf, you can make a nut loaf or things with lentils. So it's a really handy tool if you don't have one already. And if you happen to live in Berkeley and you don't have a food processor, you can actually check one out from their tool library for free. If you're a library member, you can borrow a food processor. So if you just want to try it out, then you can, try it before you buy it. Okay, so get everything set up here. All right, so let me show the tempeh. I also prepared this ahead of time. So tempeh is a soy product, and it's originally from Indonesia, and it's made with fermented soybeans. It's very different from tofu. Actually, it's more firm. It's got kind of an earthy, nutty flavor. It comes in like a loaf like this. And it's sometimes made with some other grains, so it has protein, fiber, and lots of other nutrients. Straight out of the package, it has a little bit of a bitter flavor, So if you actually steam it for about 10 minutes, then it will help remove some of that bitter flavor. So when I first tried making these burgers, I thought that flavor was kind of noticeable. So I made them a second time and I steamed it, and then I couldn't tell. So, you know, if it doesn't bother you, you can skip that step, but it's something that I like to do when I cook tempeh. So the original recipe calls for quinoa, but I'm going to be using brown rice. Either one, you know, both sources of lots of fiber and other nutrients. But I think you could probably even try other grains as well. So some sustainability tips, you know, using your own reusable produce bags. You can buy, you know, your vegetables without extra packaging. You can buy grains in bulk in some stores, like Berkeley Bowl, if they let you use your own container. So I actually have some buckwheat here, toasted buckwheat. I was going to try it in this recipe, but it kind of broke down too much. I think if it was untoasted buckwheat, it would work better, but they let you measure your jar, fill it up, and then measure it again. And then they take out the weight of the jar. And then that way you're not, you don't have any packaging waste. So take advantage of that. Same thing with spices. Some stores let you buy spices in bulk. And other than that, most of what we're using here comes in a can or a jar. So those are recyclable. So that's how you can try to reduce your packaging impact when you cook. Okay, so let's see. So the first thing we're going to do is cook the mushrooms. So when you make veggie burgers, you want to pre-cook the vegetables. Otherwise, your burgers will be mushy. So I'm going to show you how to do this without doing any chopping. Let me get this where you can see it. I'm just going to pulse this until it kind of roughly chops the mushrooms. In this recipe, it's important not to puree things to a mush, because then your burger will be a mush. So especially for the mushrooms, we're going to cut them up and then cook them and then add them back. So we don't want them too mushy yet. So I'm just going to pulse it until they're chopped to a little bit of a more manageable size. And then I can just cook them in the pan. And some of these mushrooms were a little large, so they kind of just bounce around the food processor. Okay, so I didn't want to chop anything, but I already have the cutting board here. So I'm just going to kind of chop these up into smaller pieces. Doesn't really matter too much because, again, we're going to cook everything down and then add it back to the food processor. So I'm going to get my skillet going with just a little bit of oil, and we'll cook the mushrooms first. While we're waiting, I'll show you on the overhead camera what the curry looks like so far. So the jackfruit's starting to break down a little bit, and this is just kind of softening everything and letting all those spices work their way through the whole dish and let the flavors marry. So if you have time, you can cook this for even longer and it will taste even better, but you can do it in less than an hour as well. Okay, so a little bit of oil in the pan for the mushrooms. And once we empty out the food processor, we're going to put the beets in. So I have some pre-cooked beets here. The recipe just says grated beets. It doesn't say raw or cooked. I've just used cooked beets, but you know, I said you do want to cook the vegetables before you add them. Beets don't have a ton of water. I'm not sure if it would really make a big difference if you use raw beet, especially if you're grating it. It's going to cook pretty quickly, but what I've tried so far is the cooked beets, and that seems to work just fine. Okay, so let's empty out the food processor and put this into the hot pan. Okay, and I don't worry too much about cleaning out the food processor in between since this is all kind of going in the same place anyway. So the order that I like to do is to first add the beets. So it says to add 2 tablespoons. So I'm just gonna add these 2 little tiny beets, and that should be about 2 tablespoons. And rather than having to chop them up or grate them, I'm just gonna pulse them in the food processor. You don't really even need to pulse it. You can just puree it. And every once in a while, you might have to scrape down the sides. But you can see there, my beets are nice and finely chopped up. And then next, while the mushrooms are cooking, we're gonna add the tempeh. So I'm just gonna kind of break it up into smaller pieces. So you can do this straight from the fridge, take your tempeh out and do this, or you can steam it ahead. And like what I did was I steamed it and then froze it and then thawed it overnight. Okay, and then we're gonna pulse this until it's roughly chopped. So here's where it starts to become important not to over blend everything, because it's gonna make a mushy burger. So we just want to pulse it. Just breaking it up a little bit. Okay, so hopefully you can see that on the overhead camera. It just kind of looks like, I don't know, cooked grains or something, which is basically what it is. So we just broke it up a little bit. And now we're gonna add the rest of the ingredients and then just pulse it until it's incorporated and starts to kind of look like hamburger. Okay, so 1 cup of a cooked grain. I'm using brown rice here. Let's see on the recipe, remaining ingredients. Okay, so we're gonna add a 1/4 cup of oats. Again, this is your binder, so you want to make sure you use a binder when making veggie burgers. So it could be, you could also use flaxseed, which is kind of used as an egg replacement, or maybe, other grains. Okay, and now we're going to start flavoring this mixture. So when you make things that are typically not vegan or plant-based, when you make them plant-based, sometimes it won't have as complex of a flavor. So there are lots of ways you can add more complex flavor to your foods. So one thing is nutritional yeast, which gives food kind of a savory and actually cheesy flavor. So we're going to add a tablespoon of nutritional yeast, also something you can buy in bulk. And I use this in a lot of recipes. I sprinkle it on popcorn, but we have a bunch of recipes on our website that use nutritional yeast. So if you don't want to buy it just for this recipe, maybe check out our website and see other ways to use it. But you can use it to make creamy sauces and all kinds of things, honestly. Then we're going to add garlic and onion powder. We're going to add 1 teaspoon of each. Garlic powder. Okay, that's the timer for the jackfruit curry. I'm gonna stir the mushrooms up. Okay, we'll get to actually, let's go back to the jackfruit curry for a second. Okay, so we cooked it for 15 minutes. And then you can take off the lid and let some of the water evaporate to thicken it. I'm just going to go straight ahead to save some time, and I'm going to add some more liquid to it. So the original recipe just adds water, 1 cup to 1.5. I like it to be a little bit creamy, so I replace some of the water with coconut milk, but that's totally optional. So here's what it looks like on the overhead camera after cooking for 15 minutes. You can see it's softening. The jackfruit, if I just kind of push on it with a wooden spoon, it kind of falls apart. And honestly, it looks a lot like shredded meat. Kind of fascinating how it works. Okay, so I'm going to add, I'll just leave it here for a second. I'm going to add half a cup of water. This is the measuring cup I used for the tomato paste, so I'll get some more of the tomato paste there. And then I'm going to add half a cup of coconut milk. And I would start with only 1 cup of liquid. You can always add more later, but you don't want it to be too watery. Let's give that a stir. So you can maybe see the difference in the way this looks compared to the picture. This is going to be a lot creamier with both the coconut milk and the tomato puree rather than the fresh tomato. And now we're just going to let that cook for another 15 minutes to combine and get all the flavors mixed together. And then just keep stirring your mushrooms. So mushrooms are pretty cool because you actually can't overcook them. They don't eventually turn to mush, even though the word mush is in their name. You actually can't really overcook them, but you do want to cook them to the point where they're done so that you get out as much of the liquid and you don't end up with a mushy burger. Okay, so back to the veggie burgers. We added the garlic powder. Next, we're going to add the onion powder. So I think something else that would be really delicious in a veggie burger is sauteed onion. So if you want to try that, you could just cook the onion ahead, kind of like what we're doing with the mushrooms, and incorporate them. But we're just going to add onion powder here. And then to give it a smoky flavor, we're going to use liquid smoke. So, you know, veggie burgers don't often hold together as well as meat burgers. So they're a little bit harder to grill. So I usually just cook them on the stovetop in a cast iron skillet. So you don't get that smoky flavor like you would if you grilled it. So if you want, you can add liquid smoke. You can leave it out if you don't want to add it, but it kind of gives it that smoky barbecue flavor. Okay, so the rest of the ingredients are things that help add a more complex flavor that are optional, but I like to use some of these little tricks to make plant-based dishes a little bit more interesting. So one ingredient that works well and you can use in small amounts is Worcestershire sauce. If you want it to be completely plant-based, make sure that it says that on the label because it's sometimes has, I forget what, maybe anchovies in it. So if you want it vegan, then make sure to look for a sauce that is specifically vegan. So I'm adding 1 teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. This one might seem funny, but actually peanut butter helps a lot with the kind of just giving it a rich flavor. All these things might seem kind of strange to add to a burger, but we're adding such small amounts that it's really just helping develop a more complex taste without making this taste like a peanut butter burger, which maybe you like, maybe you won't. Probably most people wouldn't like that. But I'm just adding 1 tablespoon peanut butter. When I was in college, I took a food preparation class, and I remember we made chili with tofu instead of meat, and we used some of these same tricks to kind of flavor the tofu, where I think we added soy sauce and peanut butter and different spices and then mixed it up ahead of time, and it kind of gave it a brown color and gave it a more complex flavor. So these are things that can be applied in lots of different recipes. So I'm also going to add 2 teaspoons of tamari, which is similar to soy sauce, but it usually doesn't have any wheat in it. So if you have a wheat allergy or can't tolerate gluten, usually you can use tamari. Just make sure you check the labels to be sure. And I'm using less sodium tamari, but you can also just use soy sauce. But the great thing about tamari and soy sauce is that they're brewed and they're fermented, which gives it a lot of that umami or flavor. Umami is like the fifth flavor, and it's kind of roughly translates from Japanese to savory. So, meat tends to be very savory. So there's all these little things that we can add to add a savory component to plant-based dishes. So again, all those are optional. If you don't want to use soy sauce or tamari, you can just season it with salt. And if you are going to try adding or omitting different ingredients, just pay attention to the texture. If it seems too wet, maybe add a little bit more binder like oats. Or if it's too dry, maybe add a little bit more of the, I don't know, peanut butter or cooked vegetable or whatever it is you want to use. Okay, so the mushrooms are still cooking, so I'm not going to add those yet, but we'll go ahead and just kind of pulse everything. Oops, sorry, I didn't have that in view of the camera. Have everything here. I'm just going to pulse it real quick, and then we'll throw in the mushrooms at the end. Okay, so you can get an idea of how it's starting to look here. Let's check on the mushrooms. All right, I'm going to add the cooked mushrooms in here. And I'm going to rinse this pan so we can cook a burger in it. When I use cast iron, I usually rinse it real quick right after I cook in it. If anything sticks, that helps loosen things up right away. So cast iron is a little tricky. It takes a little while to properly season it. But the cool thing about it is, especially if you're not eating much meat or animal products, is your food can actually absorb iron from the cast iron pan, which is actually a good thing. So when you cook like these burgers in there, then they'll actually have more iron, which especially beef as being a major source of iron, but there's actually a lot of plant sources, they're just not absorbed as well. So being able to get a little bonus iron from the pan is a good thing. Also, if you combine plant sources of iron with vitamin C, which is in all kinds of fruits and vegetables, then it helps you absorb it. So for example, if you have a spinach salad and you put strawberries in the salad, which is kind of like a popular summer salad, then the vitamin C from the strawberries will help you absorb the iron from the spinach. Okay, so check that out. It's starting to look kind of meaty. It's kind of got a little reddish pink color, and it's getting more, what do you call this? It's finer on the bottom and then a little bit looser on top. And I think this is kind of the texture that we want. It's soft enough that we can form a patty, but it's not so mushy that it is just going to be a mush ball. We want a little bit of a texture and a bite in there. So then you're just going to form these into patties. And with veggie burgers, you want them to be about 1 inch thick or 3/4 of an inch. So you don't want them too thin because they'll just fall apart. And you don't want them too thick either, because then the outside will burn before it's fully cooked. So yeah, I think we kind of achieved the right texture here. You can see that on the overhead camera. So you can see how it's kind of defined. There's still some texture in there, but it's holding together. It's got enough moisture that it's holding together. So we can just go ahead and make 4 patties. So if you have time, you can always make these a little bit earlier and let them sit for a little while, put them in the fridge and let them sit. And that will also just help the flavors kind of marry before you cook them. But yeah, again, for cooking them, I recommend sauteing them in a pan. They might fall apart on the grill, or if you want to grill them, maybe if you have a pan or something that you put down so that they don't fall apart and make a big mess. So I'm going to try to cook one in time for you to see it at the end here. So we're just going to cook in a little oil, but while we're waiting, I'll show you what the jackfruit curry looks like. So this is pretty much done. Again, the longer you cook it, the more those flavors will combine. So if you want, you can kind of keep going with it, but that's how it looks. And you can add a little bit more salt to taste if you'd like. And if you happen to be making both these recipes in the same week, you can make a big batch of rice or quinoa or whatever grain you want, use a cup of it in your burgers, and then put the curry on top of it. So these recipes kind of work well together. Okay, so let me try putting a patty on here. Okay, cast iron gets very hot. Make sure you use a pot holder when you touch the handle. So I'm just gonna let that cook for a few minutes. We have a couple minutes left, so let me make sure I got to tell you everything. So again, you know, the idea with the veggie burger is that veggies are much less resource intensive than beef. And even if you do want to have, say, a beef burger, you could still incorporate some of these to replace some of the beef in it, especially with mushrooms. You could do that in all kinds of beef recipes. If you do like to eat beef, you know, replace half of it with mushrooms. That way you're not cutting it out completely, but it's enough to make a difference and add more nutritional value and decrease the environmental impact of what you're cooking. So let's see. Oh, other flavors you can add in addition to the ones that we added to these burgers are miso and tomato paste or vegetable broth or bouillon paste. So I like to add miso to a lot of plant-based recipes because if you add it in a small amount, you can't really taste it, but it gives it a much more complex flavor. And again, that umami savoriness. So I always keep it in my fridge and add it to, like I actually want to do a mac and cheese recipe for this class, but we don't have time for that. I put a little bit in there. It doesn't make it taste like miso soup or anything, but it just gives it a more complex flavor. And if you're afraid that if you buy a tub of miso, you'll never use it all, you know, make a few batches of miso soup every once in a while and you'll use it up before it goes bad. So I don't think I can show you the finished burger in time. But I'll show you how it's looking so far. Let's see. Oops, it did fall apart. Okay, so maybe mine needs a little bit more of something liquidy, but you can see it cooking there. It's getting nice and browned. And I imagine that you could make these ahead and freeze them as well, and then just thaw them before you want to cook them. So we'll stop the recording there. And if you have any questions, then I'll stick around. And so I hope